I told the story of Alan Mullally. He took over the CEO of Ford Motor Company with $3.5 billion in debt. Within 5 years, he turned that round to a $1.6 billion profit, not by focusing on figures, not by focusing on improving supply chains or distribution channels, but by focusing on the culture of the business. And by focusing on that, people in the business stood up, took more control, grew the business, pulled it out of loss into profit within 5 years. Welcome to the latest edition of the Family and Business Podcast. I'm Mark Reed, and as always, joining me is my business partner and far better half, Caroline. Hey, Caroline.
Hi, Mark.
Busy week?
Yeah, another good.
You have to think about that for a bit.
No, I've been pretty organised, I think.
Yeah, no. I mean, busy week. Nails Tuesday, hair Wednesday, lunch with the girls Thursday.
I don't think so.
Right, in this episode, before I get chucked out of the chair, in this episode, we're going to talk about setting targets in your business, and particularly in a family business. We're talking about what's the process, because I think the way that we're often taught how to set targets in a business, or the way that we sort of start setting targets in business, is not necessarily the best way forward, because we often start with numbers, don't we?
Yeah.
Yep. And you got a view on that.
I don't. Yeah. So I have a view on most things. Often people will go, "Oh yeah, I want to, look at this, and I'll make it a 20% or a 10%." Yep. It's actually not about the percentage increase. It's actually about the outcome.
Yep.
The benefit of the outcome.
So I think that if you're looking at the outcome, you've got to start with a vision.
Yeah.
So I think that if you're looking at, say you're looking now as you lead into, because we're recording this in June, so we're looking about the end of the financial year. And so what people often do is they plan for the next financial year. They go, I want a 20% increase in gross profit, or a 30% increase in revenue, or a 10% decrease in overheads, or whatever it might be. And that's all great. Where I start, though, in order to determine that, is what's the vision? In other words, what do you want the business to look like in 12 months' time? Because you've got to understand, and you've got to be able to share with your team what you want the business to look like and where it's going. And then you can determine what are the financial levers you need to pull in order to achieve that outcome that you're talking about.
Yep. There has to be a vision. I mean, money is, your balance sheet is important, but having that clear vision for not only you as a business, but for your team and the team's journey is really important. And if you can get that
and
in place, it's good.
You share it with them too, right?
Always.
Do you mean
we've talked about that?
Yeah, lots of times.
A couple of episodes ago.
But you talk about having a vision in the business. You go, I'm coming into the end of the financial year, so I'm going to plan my next financial year's figures. And in businesses you and I have worked in over the years, there's always, well, you don't share that with the team. No, I don't need to know anything about the numbers or the dollars, it's just bullshit, right? They don't need to know the nitty gritty, but if you really want people to come on that journey with you, you've actually got to share what that vision looks like. They've got to know where they're going. We talk about, I just finished reading the book, Incredible Teams, and it talks about that the one thing people want, they want psychological safety, but they want to know that they're a part of a journey.
Yeah.
And that everything they do on a daily basis leads to some outcome. And so I think that's where your comment about outcome becomes really relevant.
Yeah. I think, and you're a part of all of this is not just one department. It's not just your sales department.
No.
The vision that you have and the goals around the vision, it might not necessarily be a number, a monetary number, but we've got to look at it from simplistically. A sales team is really easy to look at. Your numbers and the number of calls and those sorts of things. But there needs to be some sort of vision clarity and something to strive for your administration team, for, all different areas, for your accounting team.
Yep.
Because there has to be performance levels, and those performance levels increase productivity, which increases profitability.
Yep.
But
satisfaction.
Yep.
Yeah. You don't want to be in the position where you can't get no satisfaction. Sorry, Rolling Stones. So no, it's a good point you make, because like in years gone by, when you were doing figures for the next year, it'd be around your sales team or like your gross revenue, or maybe the accounting team might be net profit. But I think that every single member of your team. We've used this analogy before. Your business is like a jigsaw puzzle, right? You turn the picture over on the top of the box. That's what your business looks like. Every piece in that jigsaw puzzle plays a role. Take one piece out and the picture doesn't look the same, and it's not as valuable. Whereas, so if you're looking at applying figures, it's not just your sales team or your admin team or your accounting team, but it's everybody. Everybody has plays some role. Like I'm just thinking within the Metropole business, we talk about giving. We've got the sales team, we've got the PM team, with the buyers agents. They've all got figures, but even down to like, or across to like the receptionists, we should be looking, giving them some targets around, how many calls do they miss, or how many calls get put through, or how many compliments they. I mean, there's a whole bunch of factors that you could take into account there and apply some figures, and it gives them some impetus and momentum, something to work toward as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I was in a position where it wasn't numbers and there was nothing to strive for.
Yep.
Not that you necessarily want to be measured on, but you want to be able to sort of go, oh, I really nailed that.
Yep. Yeah, and the other thing.
I don't have that. That's not nice.
No, it's not nice. And the other thing too, I think, is that, let's be honest, financial targets are really important. Yeah?
Yes.
Obviously.
Yeah, but this is not dismissing financial targets.
No,
If you don't
not
have
at all.
them,
You go broke.
you go broke.
So financial targets are really important, but running a business is more than just the financial targets. So at Wealth Retreat a couple of weeks back, I spoke about the concept, or spoke about culture and shifting things and the importance of that in growing your business. And I told the story of Alan Mullally, who I think is 2009, thereabouts, don't quote me. Anyway, he took over as CEO of Ford Motor Company with $3.5 billion in debt. Within 5 years, he turned that round to a $1.6 billion profit, not by focusing on figures, not by focusing on improving supply chains or distribution channels, but by focusing on the culture of the business. And by focusing on that, people in the business stood up, took more control, grew the business, pulled it out of loss into profit within 5 years. So I think it's really important that you've got to have financial figures, but they can't be the only thing that you use to measure the success of the business, is kind of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's outcome. It's got to be, a business is outcome driven, results are outcome driven. But
let's say you're sitting listening to this and you go, well, that's fine, but I run a small plumbing business, or a small electrical business, small home services business, or an accounting practice. Well, other than fees that I write, money that people pay me, what else am I going to measure?
Oh, your referrals?
Yep.
Word of mouth?
Yep.
How many times people are coming back to you? How many people are referring to you?
Repeat clients, refer clients.
Yeah.
Team satisfaction.
You know if you're doing a good job in your business, if people are referring to you, or if people are asking for advice and you're their go-to person.
Net Promoter Score. An old mentor of mine always used to say the greatest compliment somebody could pay him would be if they asked for his advice on something they knew he didn't deal in.
Yeah.
So, hey, Caroline, you're a great business coach. Do you know where I can get a good deal on a new car?
Yeah.
I mean, as a matter of fact, we do if you go to Barton's. But
Buttons.
Yeah. But do you know what I mean? Like that. If you are listening to this and you're in one of those situations, you go, well, it's really just about the fees that we earn and the contribution that people make to that. It's more than that. It's about Net Promoter Score, which is just how many times people are prepared to refer you. Repeat business, client satisfaction, team member satisfaction, turnover of team members,
Bums on seats.
sick days. Yeah. How happy people are.
Don't dismiss your Google reviews.
Google reviews, 100%.
You
Yeah.
sort of forget about them and go, oh, but let's focus back on Google reviews.
Yep.
But yeah, let's not dismiss those.
So I guess the point is that there's a whole range of things that you could be measuring when it comes to setting targets for the business. And imagine if you set out. You mightn't be old enough. I remember you used to go past factories, and they used to have a big sign out the front of the factory, and it said so many days since the last accident. Show made. Anyway, if you're over 55 listening to this podcast right now, you'll remember what I'm talking about. Prior to WH&S being such a huge thing, when you drive past a factory, they'd often have a sign out the front saying so many days since their last accident or last critical incident in the factory. And it was like a real badge of honour. Well, yeah, because you want to go,
Well, that's a good thing. Obviously,
I want
that's
to
a
go,
good thing, but
I want to go work there, but last week some bloke lost his leg in the, because they didn't have a. So, but if you go for a job there and it's been 300 days since the last accident, you go, well, that's obviously a pretty safe place to work. Why I'm talking about that?
I was going to say,
Where am I going?
I was going to say, where do you go with that? Because I've got nothing on that one. Jesus.
Because the point is that was actually smarter than it first appears, because they were measuring something other than just dollars. They never put a sign up out the front and said, how many days since our last $1 million profit. They were measuring something different, but they were measuring something that meant something to the people inside the business. And that's my point. So, if you want to put your team in front, which you should, then you want to measure something that matters to them. And so it might be team turnover. It might be client satisfaction. It might be positive Google reviews. It might be, a happiness index.
That's a great challenge for our listeners.
Yeah.
Ask your team.
Ask your team.
I shouldn't say kumbaya meeting, but have a meeting and have a catch up about that. That would be really interesting to know.
So the concept of setting targets, you've got to set financial targets, but this is an opportunity for you to think right now, as you're walking along or you're at the gym or you're driving, listening to this episode, you sort of go, well, hang on, what are some other things I could actually measure? Number one. But number two, how do I get my team on board with this? Because if we go back to the factory thing, what they were doing with those boards outside the factory is measuring something that mattered to the people inside the factory. If you measure something that matters to the people inside your business, then you are going to have a stronger business. You're going to get a higher staff retention. If your team are happy, they're going to be working harder at making your clients happy. And frankly, that's going to make you more money. Do you know what I mean? They're like, there's just a direct causal link between these. All right. So
Good. Well done. Good still.
Did I do good?
You did really well.
There you go. Shows I know what I'm talking about sometimes.
I've been measuring the.
So you could use that as a measurement. How well Mark does, which we'll load that into the figures for next financial year. So if you're looking at setting up some targets in your business, by all means set up the financial ones. Whether it's revenue, revenue's fine, but you could be making a ton of revenue and having no profit. So I'd be looking at your percentage of your profit, your gross profit against your revenue, your percentage of your net profit against your gross profit. They're important. But there's a coach in the NFL, and Brett always reminds me of who he is, and I always forget. I've listened to him on Masterclass.
That's Brett Warren.
Yeah, Brett Warren. Yeah, who's won a number of what's the competition in the Super Bowl? Thanks, Nick, from behind the camera, trying to whisper to me. Super Bowl, won a number of Super Bowls, right? And he always says this: don't worry about the score. The score will take care of itself. If you do the right things in the business and you start measuring these right things and you're doing the right things and you're performing at that level and your team are performing, the results will come. So if you're sitting there right now going, yeah, I don't know, it's like I'm doing okay, but I just, maybe I need to look after your people, look after your clients, the results will come. Price accordingly, make sure you're doing that. I mean, they're all the things that we talk about in our Mastermind
the
program.
happiness scale. Get back to the happiness scale. We forget to be happy at work.
Well, that's a really important component. All right, so listening to this now, what's a takeaway for you? Really simple step. As you start to work toward the end of this financial year, I'd love you to sit down and work out what are the things that I'm going to measure that I want to improve on in the next financial year. Revenue, gross profit, net profit, percentages between those, client retention, client refer rates, client return rates, team retention, team happiness, client happiness, your happiness. Yeah.
The business owner needs to be happy.
Yeah. How many arguments you're not having with your significant other if you're running a family business? Do you know how things are running more smoothly? These are all targets that you should be setting, and you should be setting those. Now is a great opportunity to do it.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you, Mark.
Good stuff. Great. Hey, if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast program, please like, subscribe. And if you're watching this on YouTube, we'd love you to like and subscribe because you'll click the bell to get notifications when the next episode is available so that you can get it straight away. If you've got something you'd like to hear Caroline and I talk about, if you're in a family business, we'd love you to put it into the comments below. If you know somebody in a family business who you think would benefit from this, please don't forget to share this episode with them. Until we chat next, please make sure you spend time with those who matter most.